Hello, hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Decentralized Masters podcast, your go-to source for everything in information for the DeFi world. I'm Tristan, and today I'm here with my co-host John. Today we're here to guide you through the ever-changing world of DeFi, one strategy at a time. Every week, right here on the Decentralized Masters YouTube channel, we go live twice a week, actually. We go live on Tuesdays as well to bring you the latest insights, updates, and tools to help you in the DeFi space. How's it going, John?
I'm doing pretty good. Markets are looking a lot better. A lot of shakiness, talks with tariffs. Then we had something regarding fake number for the jobs report. So market's been a little bit all over the place, but I think a little bit more positiveness coming in. Now, I did see a little bit on the stock market slightly start to correct as soon as markets took off in the beginning and then corrected. I don't know what's going on, but overall looking way better than what we've been seeing, I would say, in the last 2 weeks, right? Because we had that nice little pump when we were talking about how we were going to be possibly seeing altcoins move, and then we came through with a correction. So definitely a normal situation to be in, but overall everything is good. With that being said, how about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I missed last week's podcast.
That's right.
You had Tyler on. What did you guys talk about? Anything interesting?
Yeah, lots of interesting things. He was basically just talking about the dollar. I told him we definitely need to have him join us another time. So he was just basically talking to us about the dollar, talking about a possibility of an extended cycle, which I found very, very interesting. So I think it was a really, really pretty good podcast. I learned a lot. I just asked some questions, so I was just sitting back and listening. It was a really good podcast. I know you had to take care of something, so everything
Is that
good
a
on that?
doctor's appointment?
A
I didn't
doctor's
want to do. I didn't want to go. I had to go.
Everything was
Yeah.
good though.
Yeah, in the end, all is good. For those of you who are watching and don't know or watching this in the future, Tyler is the lead researcher here at Decentralized Masters. Just a bountiful basket of knowledge, always learning from that guy. He is a quant by trade, so very smart guy.
Yeah, very smart guy. Learned a lot of that session. We should definitely try to get him on the podcast again. I know he's super busy. I mean, we're all super busy, but I know he has a lot of things tied up, working on multiple things. But it'd be nice if we could get him, and on this podcast with you being here too as well. I think that'd be pretty good. But welcome in, everyone. Make sure to smash that like button, turn on post notifications on, comment down below. And let's go ahead and start off with crypto bubbles. So looking at the hourly, we see a little bit of green, nothing too impressive. Let's go ahead and take a look at how the daily is looking. On the daily, we are seeing a little bit of movement going on. We see the Hex token coming up. I don't know what's going on there with Pulse Chain. Have you heard anything going on there? I know Richard Hart apparently is back in action. Do you know anything about why Hex is now picking up in momentum?
No, I do not. I remember the Hex story. I remember Richard Hart going out and using funds to buy yachts and diamonds and nice cars, and and then he eventually the chickens came home to roost, and he got in trouble with the law. So
yeah, now he's back though, which is interesting. I thought he was going to be out for a while, but he was only out for 2 years, maybe less than 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I don't know. It's been a while. That guy was definitely the ambassador of crypto last bull cycle.
last cycle, yeah.
Last cycle, we had a lot of those kind of actors, right? We had Sam Bankman, we had that guy, and we had a few other major, I guess, influencers. I don't know. I feel like this cycle is not the same as we had from last previous cycle. Like the excitement from last cycle was through the roof, and we had a lot of these crazy kind of influencers, if you want to call them, like Richard Hart and things like that popping out. Have you noticed that trend? It's not, we don't have that same momentum as we did last cycle. I'm not sure if it's because we haven't really taken off, but I haven't really seen any kind of major influencer like that at the moment.
Yeah, I like to call them grifters. Gone tomorrow. Those guys, yeah. But it's however, we still got the influencers that are still around. So we got, of course, Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor has been very prominent this cycle just because it has been a strong Bitcoin cycle. So Michael Saylor, for those of you who don't know, he is the CIO, but he's basically the CEO. But he's the CIO officially of MicroStrategy, which is the very popular Bitcoin treasury fund. And since it has been a treasury company cycle, so lots of ones for Bitcoin have popped up, like Metaplanet, MicroStrategy, like I said. Now we've also seen some pop up for Ethereum, and then there's actually some more I'm going to talk about today as well. But yeah, you see those guys. CZ, of course, CZ, founder of Binance, he's still relevant. So the guys who are actually, in this for life, those guys are still around, and those ones are the ones I like.
Yeah, but I feel like CZ has been pretty quiet. I mean, ever since he had to step down to CEO from Binance, which I'm not sure that was for the good, for the bad, but yeah, I totally agree with you. I think last cycle we had a lot of these very interesting narratives really pop out. I don't know. Like I said, it's maybe it was the atmosphere of a lot of free money, that there was a lot more people, I guess, willing to take that risk, because what else did we really have? We had no other option but to,
Yeah.
most of us sit at home and do nothing and possibly learn something new. So that could also be a big factor, but we are definitely seeing all across the board markets slightly start to pick up, at least for the monthly. As you see all across the board, tokens up over 50%. Some of these tokens are actually tokens we talked about. I was talking about XLM. We were talking about ETH for a while. HBAR, XRP had a nice little move here too as well. Pengu up 132%, Hex up 123. So we are getting signs of a possibility of a bull run in the altcoin season. Now, this is one of the first signs you start to see, as you start to see a lot of these tokens that you might have not heard of in a very long time start to pick up in momentum. And one perfect example is Hex. Like, Hex has been a pretty dead token. Like, if we were to go ahead and pull out our chart to what that looks like, Hex has just gone down the drain. But these are the signs you start to see in the market once we start to see a little bit more of this momentum and risk taking into these lower cap tokens. I know IP's actually been one story that Tyler called in his gems. That one did 96% in a month. So we're definitely seeing a lot of these semi-random tokens, such as ENS. ENS is not a random token. It has to do with domain services, but domain services last cycle was a big thing. It was almost like NFTs or like AI at that time. Now no one, I don't really hear many people talk about DNS domains. So we're seeing that up 40%, right? So the signs are kind of clear. Of course, none of this is financial advice, but the signs are kind of clear that what we're seeing right now in the market, we could be seeing this pivot from Bitcoin over to altcoins. I believe Tristan talked a little bit about this yesterday, and you were saying there has been more outflows in Bitcoin. Is that what you said these last couple of days, or?
Yeah, Bitcoin saw net outflows, and so did Ethereum, though, actually. So Ethereum being the largest of the altcoins, it was seeing some larger outflows, and I'll talk about it later too. But that's probably going directly into the actual altcoin market, which you're seeing here. A lot of tokens are actually outperforming Ethereum now as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Litecoin has been doing very, very well. And Ethereum, on just in the month alone, up 45%. So I think these signs are clear. I think the signs are clear that we are getting altcoins start to pick up. And if you've noticed, one biggest trend, guys, is that most of these tokens are running on Ethereum.
Yep.
Barely do you see any that are running on Solana that did very, very well, besides Pengu that I know of that's on Sol. And that's pretty much the only one I know of. Maybe these tokens are, I'm not too sure, but I think CFX is ETH, isn't it?
I think CFX is ETH, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest things that I mentioned in the last couple months is that I think we're going to be gearing more towards ETH dominant cycle, and I think that this is a clear sign because CRO is also basically on ETH. They do have their own blockchain, but they are running on Ethereum. But with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the fear and greed. Crypto fear and greed right now currently at 54. We do see the level of greed now start to pick up from last week. We were at 52, still at a level of greed. And the week prior to that, we were actually in fear. So it's pretty amazing to see how quick the markets change. It almost seems to be overnight. I mean, crypto markets are very, very aggressive, very, very volatile, and it really does play with your emotions. You know, one day we're up 50%, the next day we're correcting 30%, and we start seeing people panicking, right? So try not to get too emotional with it, but the market we're in is a very volatile market. It's always short term, always have the mindset of a little bit more of a longer term mindset into what's going to happen in the future. Don't look at, current market behaviors too much, or else you're going to drive yourself crazy. But I got into a point personally where like I'm not emotionally attached to the market anymore. I used to be prior. Now I kind of could almost care less. And I think that's maybe because of the confidence of previous markets of knowing how usually markets react. I've become kind of numb to it. So like, whether it's up, it's a nice day. I'm really waiting for that day when we wake up with a 3, 4, 5x on our portfolios. Then I guess my attitude would change a little bit. But would you give out any pointers, Tristan? Or do you feel the kind of same way? Like, do you feel personally now any kind of attachment to the market with short-term movements, whether it's up, whether it's down? Do you get emotionally involved in it as you probably used to when you first started getting exposed to markets in general?
Yeah, no, and I cater to that as well. Like my story when I first got started in the stock market, whether it was a red day or a green day, decided my mood for the rest of the day. Like if it was bad, if we're having a bad day in the market, I'm going to be in a bad attitude all day. That was not ideal. That especially for I guess an emotional teenager. So, but now several years, almost a decade down the line here, I'm totally numb to kind of market moves, and it's because I would also say that I have a fraction of my portfolio that's not going to move with the market. So that would be like stable coins. I do have a large portion of my total net worth in investments that aren't correlated with the market. So I don't feel too emotional anymore as I used to.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've also learned is you definitely do not want to throw all your money into the market. Always only throw money that you feel comfortable and okay losing if you had to lose it. Not that we don't want to lose money. I don't want to lose money. The money that I have invested in the markets, I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to lose it. And I would be somewhat, a little bit bummed out if I do. But you always want to go ahead and put in money that if you were to lose it, you would be okay, right? So always diversify. Diversification is key. I think a lot of us now, since the previous cycles, we pivoted from this degen mentality to now like trying to conserve our wealth. I think that's like where everyone, a lot of us, I would say probably a lot of the mentors, like we like taking risks, but we're not like super high risk probably how once in the past, right? Like I'm speaking for me. I used to be a very high risk taker, and I would still consider myself as a risk taker. I'm always willing to go ahead and try something new, whether that's trying a new blockchain, learning more about a token, or understanding a new tool. But now when it comes to investing into the market, I try to be a little bit with the growth and a little bit more on the conservative side when it comes to investing. You definitely always want to have some cash set aside. One for buying the dips, and then two, so you won't go ahead and have your portfolio fluctuating. And of course, there is also a difference between having 20, 30, $50,000 in a market compared to $100,000, $200,000. A 2% market move, it's thousands of dollars, So also you have to, I always recommend slowly scale yourself in. You do never want to jump into the markets never experiencing how crypto moves and throw in $300,000, you're going to go in for a roller coaster of emotions. It's going to be a lot difficult to deal with too. So always start out small. That would be my biggest recommendation. And the biggest feedback that I would say is we're all here to make money, but we're not all here trying to hit a home run once, right? The goal is to compound our wealth into the next cycle to catch on to early opportunities. And that's where liquidity pools come in, staking, lending, borrowing. So that's one of the biggest reminders I'd leave everybody with. But any suggestions there that you would say, Tristan?
Yeah, one thing I've noticed in crypto is it's the people who survive who are most successful. Like a lot that they when people first get into it, they go in, all in, only maybe one or two tokens, and then hopefully the success stories of that strategy are a lot slimmer than the failures of that strategy. So of course you'll hear the stories about the guy who put in 10 grand into one token and then he doubled that, tripled that, et cetera, or became a millionaire on a meme token. You always hear that one, but you don't hear about the 99% of other people who put 10 grand into a meme token and lost it all. So
Exactly.
it's surviving in crypto, and I think all the mentors we're in this for the long term. So we have to have a survive mentality, and that makes us a little bit more conservative than someone who's just getting into crypto.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's one of the biggest things, and the reason why we started off this stream with talking about that, because the market's very, very volatile, especially these last 2-3 weeks. Like, it's just been extremely volatile, and sometimes I get messages like, oh, people panicking, or should I buy the dip or should I not? Like, it's like don't focus on short term. Don't focus on the short term. Things are going to work out in the long term. Like, just look at the positive narratives that we have. Patience is the biggest key in these markets. You're going to go ahead and test your luck, test your patience. And also, depending on where you get in the market, you could be getting in at a correction point of the market. Like, let's say if you entered, started playing around with cryptocurrencies in December, that was the top of a market. That was a temporary correction. And it was almost 6 to 8 months of nothing, just down, 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 down. And now we're seeing the upside to it, right? But the upside sometimes struggles a little bit before we finally see that final wave take off. So this market that we're in, it's a very, very volatile market full of emotions. And the biggest requirement that I would say is try to keep your emotions in check. It's a lot easier than actually doing it. And like Tristan mentioned, we do have years of experience in the market. So we were there, done that. But one of the biggest suggestions that we would give would be always go ahead and only put money that you feel comfortable having exposure to the market. That way you're not too emotionally tied in. One perfect example would be, before I go into the charts, would be like, if you have your life savings into crypto, you do not want to do that. No, I'm very bullish in crypto, but I would never recommend anybody to do that, So always go ahead and slowly scale yourself into the market. And as time goes on, then you could expose yourself a little bit more as you get comfortable. But that'd be my biggest suggestion with this market, because right now we are getting towards some very exciting moments in the market. And with these exciting moments in the market, we also get higher levels of greed. And when greed starts to kick in, we don't start to see that other side. That's why you hear a lot about these scam stories of people putting money into fake exchanges and then seeing a little bit of money grow into hundreds of thousands, and then now that they're throwing in $200,000-$300,000 into this exchange. Greed is always going to go ahead and kind of blindside you into what's going on. And what we've had in this market, and the reason why we've had so much volatility, is the level of greed. I think there's a lot more greed than there was in the previous cycle. I think in the last previous cycles, this crypto thing was a one day, it would become this big as it is today. And now it's like, oh, because now we have Trump, now we have Elon, now we have, a department called Deutsche, now we have, ETFs being passed. Like, it's a no-brainer. And yes, you're right, it is a no-brainer to be exposed to the markets, but that's also going to come in with a lot of market manipulation. And so that means that we're going to see these very high aggressive swings to the upside and to the downside. And we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about this into the charts right here. And I want to start seeing your opinion on this with Bitcoin, because I believe you talked a little bit about this yesterday, Tristan. But as you see with Bitcoin, if you guys remember, you guys have been following the stream, and if you haven't, make sure to go ahead and smash that like button, turn on post notifications. But Tristan and I, we were talking about these kind of market movements since early March. I remember even talking about it when Bitcoin was at around these high 80s and 90s, mentioning how sooner or later we're going to start to see the market pick up, and once it starts to pick up, it's going to happen a lot faster than what we expect. I actually went ahead and mentioned last month on the stream that my price prediction for July was Bitcoin reaching 125, and it didn't. It actually reached 123,000, so I was off by about $2,000. But what I'm trying to show you here is that the reason why we start to see this market fluctuation is because the level of greed, as I mentioned, liquidations come in, short squeezes happen, which push the market up even higher. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm kind of currently looking at. Bitcoin right now is looking pretty good. It's not looking too negative. It's actually looking a lot more positive than it was yesterday. Yesterday, we were hovering at around this strong resistance at around 115. Was having a lot of issues trying to break that through. It looks like we finally have been able to break that through. Now, the question will be, are we going to be able to hold through that, or will we get rejected again at around the 116 or 117? Now, for me personally, I think this is the bottom for Bitcoin right now. I think we will be seeing a new high being obtained very, very soon. And one of the main reasons why as to this, and keep this in mind, stay open-minded, right? Because I used to always make fun of this indicator right here, which is the moon phase. So the moon phases has always been something I've always made fun of in the past, but I've been studying the moon phases very, very closely for the last couple months and been watching it, right? That is just what I like to personally do. And we actually have a big major event coming in this week, which is Saturday. I believe that is the 9th. We are actually going to be having a full moon. Full moons usually go ahead and mark a bottom in the market. We saw this back right here at around back in early July, or July 8th to 10th. I think that was around the time we started to see the market pick up. And we actually just came out of a new moon in around July 24 or 25. So if you have the moon phase calendar, pull it up. I have it downloaded on my phone. This was a new moon around this time right here, where you see this red moon. I went ahead and color coordinated that so I could make it easier for you guys. But that was a new moon, and the market went ahead and topped. So we are actually coming into a full moon, which I mentioned usually is an indicator of a bottom of the market, which is going to be on Saturday. So I think we could definitely start to see some very positive momentum picking up, and we're actually already seeing it right now with Bitcoin. So this is a very interesting breakout that we're seeing. We're going to go ahead and see next week if the moon phase actually kept up and if it was real, but time will tell. But so far, it is looking very, very positive here with Bitcoin. I do think we could be seeing this breakout sooner than we expect. And I think $125,000 is our next price target. What do you have to say here about Bitcoin, Tristan?
I'll play ball with the moon cycle for a second here. I don't agree with it personally. However, all the market is like when you're looking at a chart, it's a psychological battle. You're looking at the battle between millions of traders saying, does this token or does this stock need to go up more or down more? Should it be worth more? Should it be worth less? And it's a psychological battle between just millions of people. And if you want to play into that philosophy, the moon cycle apparently does affect people's their habits and their feelings and their emotions in specific times. So there could be some psychological reason for the moon cycle actually having some grounds to stand on, I guess is my word.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, there possibly a reason that the moon cycle does play effect here.
Yeah, it's probably just many people thinking like, oh, there's a full moon this week. Let me place my longs. You know what I mean? Like, and like if enough people think about it and enough people are thinking that way, guess what's going to happen? It's gonna happen.
It's a
So
self-fulfilling prophecy.
yeah, so I think that's why moon phases work. I don't know. I mean, I do believe we live in a world of, you know, numbers and things like that and energies. But when it comes to moons predicting the market, I don't know. I'm very still skeptical when it comes to it. I'm not saying I look at the moon and I'm like, I'm placing a long today.
Under next.
I kind of do look at it a little bit like that. But as I mentioned and what Tristan just mentioned, I think the biggest factor as to why these indicators really play out, especially like the moon phases, in my opinion, have to do with people just thinking the same way. You know, oh, today's a full moon, I'm gonna place my longs. You know, it's a new moon, let me place my shorts. And I think that's really the reasoning behind it and the reason why these indicators, you know, tend to work. But yeah, just something I wanted to go ahead and mention to you, just so you could go ahead and keep in mind. We'll see if it plays out, you know, and if it plays out, now we know. Go long on full moons. We look out of our window, we see a full moon, we place our longs.
Not financial advice, of
Not
course.
financial advice. I'm kidding. If you guys didn't notice, I was joking. But let's go ahead and take a look at the Nasdaq. So the Nasdaq is seeing a little bit of a retracement right now. We are seeing a little bit of a red. We do see some resistance kicking in. Like I said, the market's opened and very, very strong today. And now we are, you know, in the sell-off period. I think what's going on right now with the stock market, a lot of profit taking, because we did see a very nice correction in the last, and we did see a nice correction last week, but we have been seeing a massive, massive rebound in like less than a week. So I think right now what we're experiencing in the Nasdaq and the stock market is just a lot of profit taking going on, and that's actually what we experienced in crypto all last week. A lot of just profit taking, you know, tokens going up 100, 150, 200%, a lot of profit takers coming in. So any intake you have to say regarding the stock market that you think we're going to continue to go higher, Tristan, or do you think we're going to go ahead and enter in this phase where we're probably going to see a little bit of red for a while before we start to break out?
Yeah, with the stock market, maybe a little flat until we kind of go back in session. You know, everyone's out in the Hamptons right now enjoying their August long vacations. So a lot of the market moves kind of, you know, the summer is always slow. It's been slow since I've been in crypto and stocks. It's always slow.
Always so.
So maybe we see something as soon as kids going back to school, September rolls around. We can see some more volatile action coming up in September, especially because we have a very important rate decision coming up. And I'll talk about that as well.
Yeah, September is going to be the next Fed meeting. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, definitely do agree. We also got to keep in mind, markets are going to be getting ready for Q4. I know we are barely entering Q3, but you know, I think we're almost around the corner as well too for Q4. We got to go ahead and start considering. So Q4 is usually when markets start to take off. I don't know when my phone's going off. I gotta turn it off. But yeah, what I was saying is I do expect for us to go ahead and see some positive momentum coming in. Stock market, definitely do agree. I do think we could probably see a little bit of a cool down period, especially because it is Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Markets usually have a cool day period because of a sell-off and the weekend. So I don't really expect much for tomorrow for the stock market. Maybe I'm wrong. We see that breakout. But I do think we're probably going to see a cool down period right now for stocks for a bit. But I do think next week, probably Wednesday, we're going to start off strong once again. So really, really positive overall. One last thing I want to go ahead and talk about before I go ahead and turn it over to Tristan. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Ethereum and the 3 altcoins that I'm looking in, and hopefully Tristan could also share a few with you. So looking at Ethereum, Ethereum's looking very, very positive right now. Ethereum has actually been killing it. This is one of the main reasons why I've been a strong believer these last couple months that we are in this Ethereum dominant market, right? It's clear, as we see, we did lose support for about a day or two, and we quickly went ahead and claimed that back up, and we broke past that resistance, which is a very clear sign that more investors and more traders are having more of a positive sentiment towards Ethereum. we actually saw with Bitcoin struggling a little bit. It took a while. It took almost a week for Bitcoin to reclaim that area once again. As of with Ethereum, it took less than 3 days for that to happen. So that is a clear sign that more investors are feeling more positive about Ethereum. And I do think that we will be seeing this breakout with Ethereum probably in the next less than 2 weeks. I think we'll be seeing Ethereum break out of this, and I think even sooner. I don't like to put price targets at a certain day because I don't know. But if I was, I would say probably in the next less than 2 weeks, we'll probably see Ethereum testing that $4,000 and above, and we should start to see a little bit of a run up there with ETH, hopefully. Any thoughts here that you have with ETH, Tristan?
Not particularly at the moment. I agree with a lot of that. Ethereum is showing a lot more strength than Bitcoin is. There was large outflows out of Ethereum last week for the first time in a while. It's been just incredibly positive. And those outflows, I mean, for the Ethereum ETFs, those have been just performing amazingly as of recently.
Yeah, ETH is looking very positive. Let's go ahead and check out Bitcoin dominance real quick. Just so we kind of get an idea of what's going on. And I do see we have quite a bit of viewers here today. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications. But the biggest second sign of entering this Ethereum market, ETH dominance, is the dominance of Bitcoin. We're actually seeing Bitcoin dominance fall, even though we actually saw some positive momentum with Bitcoin today. That is usually indicating that, once again, as I mentioned, that traders and investors are pivoting to risk on. And this could also be a very big indicator with the possibility of rate cuts. I think now there's an 80% chance that we could get rate cuts in September. So we're not that far out. We're about a month out, month and a half, if you want to call it. So we're not that far out. So we could be seeing that positioning happening. And this is probably one of the main reasons why we're also now seeing Bitcoin dominance start to fall. So I would definitely like to go ahead and see Bitcoin dominance fall below 60. And I think that's going to strongly indicate that we are now pivoting into this altcoin season. Now, keep in mind, I think we're all under the impression of altcoin season from previous cycles of how big, these markets run up. I think we will definitely see altcoins do very, very well and start outperforming a lot of their tokens. But I do definitely have to agree that I do think that we probably won't be seeing the same kind of altcoin season we've seen in the past, right? And what I mean by that is, if you guys remember back in early October, November, we started to see altcoins start to pick up at around late October, leading into the election. And if you front run into the market, meaning you invested before seeing who was going to be elected, you would be able to make a lot of money during that time, because a lot of altcoins did over 2, 3, 4x, right? And with that being said, we really only saw the market for altcoins only really do well between November and December, and that was it. 2 months. I don't even think it was 2 months. It was probably a month. It was probably a month and a half that it really went ahead and outperformed Bitcoin for a little bit, and then everything came crashing down, right? So be very, very cautious and aware. I would, suggest, once you're up on a 2x on your investment, consider taking some profits. I think it's always good to take profits. You don't have to go ahead and clear your whole entire position, but taking, 30 to 50% whenever you feel comfortable, you want to rotate into other tokens. I think that is definitely a good idea to consider. But just keep that in mind. We are getting signs of a possibility of this altcoin season that we're all waiting for. What are your thoughts here with Bitcoin dominance, Tristan?
I'm of the opinion that it's recovering a little bit here, as you can see, as you mentioned as well. However, the medium term here is we're going down. I think I think Bitcoin dominance in the medium term, long term will probably be back up again, but medium term here, the next few months, especially if we get a rate cut coming, Bitcoin dominance is coming down.
Do you think this is the top for Bitcoin dominance, 66%? Because last cycle was 70%. So we're actually not that off. I mean, if we really look at it, if we were to measure from where Bitcoin dominance topped at 65% that was only about an 11% to 10% move, right? So like this signal last cycle that this was the top of Bitcoin, and we started seeing the pivot go into altcoins, and that's when we essentially had altcoin season. Right now, Bitcoin for the first time has probably experienced the most weakness it has ever experienced. Of course, there was almost a similar scenario right here back in December, as I mentioned, where Bitcoin dominance fell, lost support, but then quickly climbed up. Do you think we're going to go ahead and see Bitcoin dominance continue to fall below that 60%, or do you think there's a possibility that we could see Bitcoin dominance gain up its strength one more time, try to break past that 74%, and then come down? Like, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. I think we are in a phase of Bitcoin season being, I don't want to say completely over with, but we are going to be seeing that pivot more into altcoins, because we have been in a Bitcoin dominant market for how many years now? So do you think we could see Bitcoin do this kind of move and come back, or do you think this is over for Bitcoin and we're going to start to see Bitcoin dominance fall, and we're going to start to see a rise more in altcoins and AI, real world assets?
Yeah, I think of course anything is possible. We could make all-time highs for Bitcoin dominance again. I don't think so. I think we're just going to, this will be a time for the altcoins to shine. However, yeah, anything is possible.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys with a few tokens that I've been watching. One of them is going to be Berachain. Berachain is at a pretty good price, in my opinion. Of course, not financial advice, but Berachain has already corrected quite a bit, over 50%. The neat thing about Berachain, guys, if you guys are not exposed to DeFi, they do have some very good liquidity pools, especially when they went live early on back in March. A lot of our members were killing it with LP pools, lending and borrowing with Berachain. But if you're not exposed to Berachain in that way, or sorry, should I say DeFi, where you could get exposure to Berachain that way, the neat thing about it is that Berachain is actually listed on Coinbase. I believe it's also listed on Kraken as well. So it's listed on most centralized exchanges. So I would recommend keeping an eye out on Bera. Bera has already retraced over 50%, but they do have a very strong community. And as well, Bera is going to be dependent on ETH. So if ETH starts to perform and outperform Bitcoin, guess what's going to happen to Bera? It's also going to go up in value. So of course, none of this is financial advice, but I think, at a 70 to 80% discount, I think it's something to go ahead and consider. Any of your thoughts here with Berachain, Tristan?
I like the Berachain where it is right now on the chart. And no one's talking about it. Everybody's forgotten about it. It had so much hype when it first came out. And then it went all the way down.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was exciting. I when it first came out, I was like, how do I put a short on this thing? now I'm definitely leaning towards maybe I want to do a long. And that's because it's basically bottomed out. It doesn't look like it wants to go any lower. And that's what I like. I like charts that are bottomed out and will either, your risk to the downside, probably not a whole lot. And then your risk to your potential for the upside is a lot more than your downside. So that's the kind of chart I like.
Exactly. I'm there with you too as well, Tristan. I like looking for undervalued gems. As Tristan was mentioning, Berachain took off with lots of hype. A lot of venture capital is behind them, backing them. A lot of excitement. I stayed far away from Berachain during that time. I remember seeing Berachain at around this price, and I said, $8 to $9 overpriced, I'm not touching it. If it falls below $5, I'll definitely be in the hype train. But for now, I'm going to stay out the door with it. And I'm glad I did, because now we are seeing Berachain at some really good prices. So I'm going to be considering, accumulating a position on Berachain here on leverage with Hyperliquid. But yeah, I totally agree here with Tristan. Berachain right here at these prices, I think from a percentage standpoint, risk to reward, you're taking on a lower risk for a higher reward. I mean, it's already dumped 80%. How much lower can it really go, right? It's an active community. It's an active project and blockchain. So it's not like a meme coin, right? So I would say Berachain. The other one I'm currently looking at right now is, I talked a little bit about this one last time, was Ondo. Ondo, I think it's one to go ahead and consider. If you guys were able to join Tan's market update last week, he actually mentioned about considering putting some buy limits at around 85 cents, and it actually did hit 84 cents last week on Sunday, I believe it was, and actually has rebound from that. So Ondo is also looking very positive, and once again, Ondo is running on the whole entire narrative with real world assets, and two, also is running on the Ethereum network, meaning that we start to see Ethereum break out towards the $4,000 and above. Guess what we're going to see? We're going to see Ondo continue to follow that as well, but of course, more aggressively. So I think right here, short term price action for Ondo, we could be seeing $1.40, $1.50 at around the corner. So I think at these levels, anything around under a dollar could be a good opportunity to consider loading up if you want to go ahead and take advantage of this recent dip that we just had. And of course, none of this is financial advice, but Ondo, in my opinion, is looking very solid. Any thoughts here, Tristan, with Ondo?
I do like the Ondo project itself. So I'm not even considering the technicals at the moment. I do enjoy the Ondo project for what it is. For those who are new to decentralized masters, I am the RWA and stablecoin guy among the mentors, and I find that Ondo is one of the most promising projects that we currently have in real world assets. So on the fundamental alone, I like the Ondo project. But even in the technicals right now, not bad. I was trying to get a little bit lower than where it is today, but I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to get that now.
Yeah. Right now, it looks like it broke past this resistance at around 93. So I think we could probably continue to see some more upward momentum. But of course, if we do get that dip, that'd definitely be a good time to consider loading up on it one more time. Another token that I'm going to go ahead and talk about, this is a super high risk token, guys. So be very, very cautious. This one is going to take a little bit of playing around and figuring out where to buy. You won't be able to buy this on Coinbase because it's not listed on Coinbase yet. You will be able to buy it on Kraken, though, I believe, and also Uphold. And if you're in DeFi, of course, you could go ahead and search it up on CoinMarketCap by typing Brett. Brett is a meme token. I consider this more of a blue chip, but of course, once again, it is a higher risk token. Very, very volatile token. This is just on one of the exchanges. I want to give you guys an idea of how these tokens correct. This thing corrected over 80 to 90%. So currently right now, it's still at a 77% discount. So this is just so you guys can kind of get an idea of what meme coins do. They correct aggressively, right? So just a quick disclaimer on that. Very, very high risk. But if you're willing to take on that risk and you want something that you could get on early on, put very little capital and have a really good upside, I would consider checking out also Brett, BRETT. This is associated with the other meme coin, Pepe. If you guys heard of it, it's listed on most major exchanges, including Coinbase. And Brett is basically Pepe's friend. The reason why I'm bullish on this is not only because it's really one of the largest narrative tokens on the meme coin ecosystem for Base. So this token is running on Base. I believe in Ethereum and I believe on the Base chain. I've been loving Base ever since it came out. I fell in love with the Base chain. So that's the reason why I'm exposed to this token, is because I believe in the Base chain. I believe in Ethereum. And also, once again, Brett is going to be moving based on Ethereum because it is basically running on ETH. So all the tokens that I just talked about today, Berachain, Ondo, Brett, realistically speaking, the narrative doesn't really matter. What really matters is the chain they're in, and they're on ETH. So that alone is one of the main reasons why we're going to see upside momentum on these tokens. Now, they also do have some very good technical setups. So that alone, the fact that they're running on ETH, they have good technicals, they have good communities, they have good narratives, pushes it to the upside even more with upside potential. Now, of course, none of this is financial advice, but I just wanted to go ahead and give you guys 3 tokens that I'm currently looking at. I am in some of these positions. I am, full disclaimer, on Brett and Ondo as well. Right now, I'm looking at Berachain to go ahead and start claiming that position. But with that being said, as I mentioned, super high risk token, but Brett, definitely a lot of upside as well if we start to see that breakout towards ETH. Now, I will go ahead and ask Tristan his opinion for it, but he's not a meme coin kind of guy. I don't know what his opinion will be, but let's hear his take. I mean, as he mentioned, he's more about real world assets and gold. Thoughts here with what I just mentioned, Tristan. Like I said, my biggest thing here is just because it's ETH. That's the biggest narrative that I'm seeing here. I'm just really ETH dominant right now.
Yeah. And I agree with that narrative that ETH is outperforming, but I will even go even further down and say that the base narrative is outperforming. For example, we had news not even too long ago, it was like last week sometime, where Chase Bank is going to allow people to have access through crypto, and their blockchain of choice was Base. So
Wow.
the Base network itself is becoming quite the fan favorite among institutions. That's probably because the Base network is built by Coinbase, which is the most regulated and I guess you could say watched and used exchange in the United States. So it does make sense that these big institutional companies are going to side with their big institutional peer that is working in this industry, that being Base being on Ethereum. So I do agree with you there. And in terms of Brett specifically, like you said, sorry, I'm not a meme coin guy. However, that chart is pretty good. You can see that it looks like it has come down a bit, but we're going to potentially form a little bit of a bottom there in that support, and hopefully it'll break up from there. So I can see your technical setup here, and I do like that.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that you mentioned. I didn't even know that about Chase, man. But Chase doing that's very big, massive news. I think also too that one thing I was going to share, and you're more than welcome to share your screen now, is Coinbase is actually working with American Express to release their Coinbase Amex debit card. So I think that's the way Amex is also getting their hands in crypto. So now we are definitely seeing a lot of institutional adoption with mostly Ethereum, and now we're seeing it with Coinbase as well, right? So I think we're definitely. It doesn't surprise me. I'm shocked, but it doesn't surprise me, to be completely honest.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised they went with Base, but you can't just buy Base token because there's no Base token. But so you could go for, if you want exposure, the best thing you could do is buy Coinbase stock or tokenize Coinbase. You can find that on Orca, Radium, anywhere on Solana. If you're in Decentralized Masters and you're a member, you can always reach out to me on that on one of my sessions. But yeah, the other options would be like Aerodrome, or if you want to go John's route here, you could also do the meme coins like Brett that are based on the Base, based on the Base network. All right, so we can get into the presentation here today. Crypto news from around the world. Not too much going on, but there's some interesting things to point out. Brazil, the House of Representatives, they're having a hearing August 20th to discuss the bill for a national Bitcoin reserve. This bill proposes allocating up to 5% of Brazil's treasury funds, which would be about $15 billion, to buy Bitcoin to hedge against geopolitical and currency risk. If passed, the bill needs to go to the Brazilian Senate, and then as well as President Lula, they would need a signature. This is fairly interesting. This is running on the same heels of the same narrative as the United States, making their Bitcoin reserve. We've also talked about countries like Bhutan, and as well as countries like Kazakhstan, all following this similar trend of actually making Bitcoin reserves. So Brazil being a massive country, this would actually be pretty significant. So we'll keep tabs on that. We go to Japan real quick here. The first XRP Bitcoin dual ETF is supposed to be coming out soon in Japan. They just applied for it at the SBI Holdings just applied for it at the Japan's Financial Services Agency, FSA. So this would be an ETF giving you exposure to both Bitcoin and XRP at the same time. Personally, I would just buy an ETF that's XRP, buy an ETF that would be Bitcoin, but you can get both of them in the same one, I guess. No, I'm actually shocked that if Japan would put out an XRP ETF before the United States does, but stranger things have happened. We also talk about Indonesia a little bit here. We mentioned this last week. Indonesia raised their taxes on crypto from 0.01% to 1%. So big move. It actually frustrated a few people across the country. But they frustrated enough people to actually start a dialogue. So there was a large meeting between members of the government and crypto people involved in Bitcoin and crypto in Indonesia. And they're also now discussing a reserve as well. So joining the club of Brazil and Kazakhstan and the United States, they are now discussing their own reserve as well. So all these literal nation state adoption is happening, and no one's talking about it. It's real quiet right now, so it's really exciting. Tons of Bali bros working in the crypto industry in Indonesia, Bali. So it's actually a very big country for crypto, and you may not expect it. We go to France real quick here as well. Less exciting, the Rassemblement National, which is the second largest political party in France, proposes a bill to mine Bitcoin using surplus nuclear energy. France is actually one of the largest nuclear energy producers in the world. This initiative would aim to convert wasted electricity into profitable digital assets, enhancing economic sovereignty. However, the Rassemblement National, that's not the party in power. That is not Emmanuel Macron. That is not his party. So this bill would have a tough battle in the French Parliament at the moment. However, it's a great idea, and a lot of countries are actually moving in this direction for stranded energy and surplus energy. Last one, we go to China real quick. We talked about this last week as well. That is, China's basically testing out stable coins in their you could say their most prominent crypto ecosystem, which would be Hong Kong, to no surprise. Now they're going to have renminbi, so RMB backed stablecoins. Something that I would personally not be too interested in at the moment. I'll stick to my US dollars for now. But it'd be interesting seeing actual stablecoins backed by something other than the USD. To Polymarket now, we're going to talk about the Fed a little bit here, some interest rates. We are almost at a 80% chance of a 25 basis point cut coming September. The market was battling it out. No one really knew until recently. We have moved largely to the 25 basis point cut, which is really finally some good news. Like I would be shocked if we don't have a 25 basis point cut coming up September.
That's going to be exciting.
That would be exciting, right? What do you think, before I pivot, before I go to the next one, what do you think October is right now, John? What is the chances in October?
I think we're probably going to get another one too.
You would be correct. At the moment, it is looking like October will also be a 57% basis point cut. So things are looking good.
Have you played with Polymarket yet, by the way?
Like actually using it?
Yeah.
No, I should though.
I played with it. I played with it for the last Fed meeting, and I put yes rate cuts, and I lost. Luckily, I only put in like $60, but no, I'm gonna start looking more at Polymarket. The only thing with Polymarket is the gas fees for Polygon, man, outrageous. It's freaking crazy. I don't know how people. Yeah, Polygon fees are outrageous, man. But yeah, definitely looking forward to that. But I also wanted to go ahead and say I do have a call that I have to go ahead and go to. I just didn't want to leave unexpected. But it was good talking to you, man, as always. And I'll see you soon. Okay.
Alrighty, I'll talk to you later, John. Thank you for joining today. Ciao.
It's all you. Have fun. Bye. Should I just wait? Hold on. Should I just?
You should be able to leave studio.
I'm scared to do it.
Yeah, okay, there's a button on the bottom.
Leave
And then
studio,
it
right?
says leave studio. Yeah, yeah.
All right. I'll see you guys later. Take care.
See you later, John. There you go. Now it's just me. Just me and you, everybody. So on here as well, why I think that we have such a high chance right now in polling market of getting rate cuts is that jobs report John mentioned in the beginning of the stream came in pretty bad. Trump said they were fake. Regardless whether they're fake or not, a bad jobs report. The Federal Reserve is paying attention to that. Jerome Powell sees that. And also inflation has come down quite a bit. Here we're looking at Trueflation, which basically is my go-to place for seeing what the inflation rate is at the moment. Of course, this is kind of peer created, so it is. I think it's quite accurate, but it's up for debate. But you can see that has come down as well. The Fed has two narratives. One being create jobs. If they're losing jobs, then they're going to be siding more to a rate cut. The other job that the Fed has is to keep inflation low. If inflation is low and is trending down, then their job is done. They do not need to hike rates. They could potentially even cut them. So if we see this number keep coming down a little bit more, I think rate cuts are in the bag. They're shooting for 2%, by the way. For those who don't know, the Fed shoots for a 2% inflation rate. So we're still a little bit above that right now, but nowhere near as bad as where we were in the beginning of this year. And now let's go to some little bit of political news that we had here. Tornado Cash. So I'm not sure if any of you are familiar. Maybe if you were some old crypto guys here. Roman Storm, founder of Tornado Cash, convicted of conspiracy to run an unlicensed money transmitting business. Basically, I'll explain what Tornado Cash does in a second here, but the jury was deadlocked on money laundering and North Korean sanctions violations. In the charges, he was leading to a partial verdict. So he was. They have said they're guilty. No, sorry. There was he was charged for 3 different crimes. He's been found guilty on one of those things. What does Tornado Cash do? Well, basically, Tornado Cash is an Ethereum mixer. So you put your crypto into Tornado Cash, and that scrambles it to hundreds, if not thousands, of different Ethereum addresses. And then you can take that Ethereum back out to an address that wasn't the one that you put it in with, and then it's essentially totally untraceable to you anymore. For example, I know that Vitalik Buterin actually said he was donating to some causes, and anytime he would donate, so Vitalik Buterin is the founder of Ethereum, by the way, he was donating to some causes, and then every time he would donate to one of these causes, he would actually Tornado Cash it first, and then he would send the funds over to wherever he wanted it to go. So very prominent. It was a very exciting story about 2 years ago. Now it looks like it's coming to a bit of a head and an end to the story. Tornado Cash is a really cool use of Ethereum, though. It is illegal, I think, in the United States, though, so do not use it. We also have a story from the UK. Everyone's heard of this one. The guy who sent 8,000 Bitcoin to his local landfill, he has given up. He has given up on trying to find his Bitcoin. If anyone wants to go and try and find his Bitcoin now, you can absolutely go ahead. But he hasn't been able to do it, and he's been at it for 12 years. So good luck. He is also on the way to make his own DeFi token, a layer 2 network, actually, representing his missing Bitcoins, not actually figuratively. That is totally figuratively, not actual. But yeah, it's a sad story. Make sure if you do keep your, I encourage you to keep your own keys, your own crypto. Don't let any custodian take care of it. However, make sure you keep those keys safe. Another important political news, and this one is I'm going to recommend. Well, I'm going to talk about a few tokens after this one as well. based on this news, the SEC clarifies that liquid staking tokens are not securities. So before, in the last administration, it was very on the rocks of whether these companies, these projects, these protocols, if they were actually operating illegally. Now the SEC did say that they're not securities, so they are allowed to do this. So that is basically these staking protocols. They are now not illegal businesses. And why this is important is because that a lot of the ETFs, for example, the Solana ETFs and the Ethereum ETFs that already exist, don't have staking built into them. So there's no staking structure there. Not yet. So once this staking structure comes in, and now these are legal, the ETFs will probably get staking as well. And then these ETFs are going to have to use, or they're either going to have to start staking themselves, which I don't think a lot of the ETF providers are going to go out and actually run validators and do it all themselves. I think they will go with someone who is already doing it. And the tokens that are already representing the projects that are already doing this are Lido. That one's the biggest one for Ethereum. There's Rocket Pool, which is another very large one for Ethereum. There's Marinade and Jito for Solana, and as well as EtherFi and EigenLayer, both of those ones for Ethereum as well. So these are the ones that are running liquid staking businesses at the moment. Some of them looking pretty good on the chart still. So of course, not financial advice, but if you want to play the narrative of institutional adoption, these are some good plays to check out. Yeah. And just a little bit of corporate news now. The Solana mobile phone has begun shipping to over 50 countries with over 150,000 pre-orders. It's priced between $400 and $500. The Seeker is projected to generate at least $67 million in revenue for Solana Mobile. The features of this phone include a decentralized app store, which honestly, I think that is the coolest thing. Just having not having an Apple App Store with gated with a gated wall. Not anyone can build on it. It's very protected. A decentralized app store where anyone can build apps. Anyone can put an app on that app store. That is something I'm really, I'm a proponent of. I love letting people control what they do. You also got a seed vault on there. I would probably not keep my seed vaults on there. I would go with my traditional methods. But if you want to go down that route, you totally can. It's probably secure, but I'm just going off the top of my head. I haven't actually researched it, but I'll continue my traditional methods. And there's also TPIN architecture for enhanced security and decentralization. The better this phone gets, the more interesting it comes to me. I might actually end up buying one at some point. And then I was also talking about this while John was talking about Ethereum. The US spot Ether ETFs recorded a record $465 million outflow, so money leaving them on Monday. And this broke a 20-day inflow streak that they had. And this was actually led by BlackRock's iShares Ethereum Trust. So the good thing about institutional adoption is, of course, you got multi-million dollars of assets and value flowing into these tokens every single day. But that also works in reverse. So when the tokens do go down, you're also going to have multi-million dollars leaving those tokens every day. So it does increase the volatility of the token a little bit. So yeah, that is part of life. Institutional adoption is here, whether we like it or not. Last little one is yield-bearing stablecoins. So the Genius Act that was passed there in mid-July actually was bad for. It was good for companies like USDC, which is USDC, which is Circle. So that was very favorable to companies that are already in the United States. However, not great for anything yield bearing. Yield bearing was still was prohibited according to this act. So that it would be like a token like Ondo's USDY. Companies in the United States will not centralized exchanges will not be able to list these type of tokens. they weren't really listed there anyways. You have to go through them through a decentralized platform, so it's not a huge deal to them. And you can see that the yield-bearing stablecoins are actually increasing in value. They're up 70% to $9.49 billion just in the last little bit here. So yield-bearing stablecoins, absolutely cool projects. However, you won't be able to get them through your typical Coinbase, Kraken, centralized exchange at this point. And then last little one is we have, sorry, I know I said that last slide, but this is the last one, I promise. Verb Technology has surged over 200%. So this is a stock announcing a $558 million deal to rebrand as a TON strategy company. So the first public company to be a TON treasury holder. This is like MicroStrategy for Bitcoin, but for the TON coin, if you don't know what the TON coin is, that is the native token of the Telegram app. So, you know, the messenger, kind of like WhatsApp, but more private. That TON coin is the native token for that. So pretty cool project, actually. But this is this Verb Technology that went from nothing to something overnight. Has gone that way because of the TON coin. Why this is interesting is that a lot of people who are only in traditional finance, so they only have a brokerage account, can now get exposure to the TON coin just by buying this company's stock. Yeah, so for those of you who are TON holders, it was up quite a bit on the news as well. So I will leave it there for everyone. Thank you all very, very much for tuning into another episode of the Decentralized Masters podcast. I know that we have quite a few people in here today, so I appreciate you all for joining. So make sure to like and subscribe so you can see our video next week. So yeah, remember, everyone, DeFi is evolving fast, and staying ahead means taking action with the right knowledge. If you're ready to dive even deeper and want to build a roadmap to your own DeFi success, check out the DeFi Masterclass. The link is in the description below. What was I going to say? In the training, you'll receive clear hands-on strategies to maximize returns and manage risks, and truly make the most of what DeFi has to offer from our CEO Tan and John and all the other mentors here. Make sure to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss next week's live episode. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and I will see you right here next time on the Decentralized Masters podcast. Talk to you later, everybody.